trusting that this is a moment of deep transformation, and it changed my entire life. And I mean, in ways I couldn't even imagine. And it's very expansive, and it's not an easy road. Transformation in general is not an easy road. And that's why, to me, the word transformation is really important, because it really is the essence of what I do and who I am.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlick, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today, because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Jumana. Jumana, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thanks so much for the opportunity, Michelle. I'm excited to get diving into this.
Nice. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Yeah, I'm a business transformation consultant, and I work a little differently than a lot of people, because in terms of my one-on-one sessions, what I'm doing is accessing the consciousness of the business, is what I like to call it, which is essentially the soul of the business. So I firmly believe that, and I can understand how it can be misinterpreted, but our businesses are very separate than us. And especially in the entrepreneur world, people are like, you are the business. And it's like, well, yes, there's the synergy that happens, but you are completely different. And if you look at it, because I also work with larger organizations, it's much easier to distinguish the business in those cases, because very rarely are the founders the people that are running the business. But in essence, so that's what I do in my one-on-one sessions, is really access the business and align and synchronize the business leader, so the people who are running the business, with that energy, to open up what I like to call the business treasure map, which allows for this opportunity to work from this place of alignment, which leads to us being in this magnetic place rather than this hustle mindset that a lot of us can get trapped up in. And then the other way I work with people is through workshops, transforming conflict in business for growth and innovation.
Nice. Well, before we get into that, and I totally want to get into a treasure map, because of course, who doesn't like good treasure map? But how did you get into this aspect of business transformation?
Tell me about it. Yeah, I feel like that too. I'm like, I have to really think about it. It's a journey. So my journey, I had been in corporate for many years, specifically big pharma, and I got sick about 11, 12 years ago. And being in pharma, you tend to put people in the medical profession on pedestals, and that's exactly what I had done. And they couldn't help me at the time. They basically said, you're normal, you're fine, you're healthy, your labs are fine. So we think it might be mental. And every part of me said no. I mean, I could just tell, like, I was sick, my body had changed. And so I basically had to unravel the layers on my own. So my health journey, quite frankly, is what led me here. After years of healing, I started to realize that my career didn't really quite fit anymore, especially after what I really understood through my journey, the meaning of health. And I just saw the twisting, if you will, of that word and what it meant being in pharma, and even, quite frankly, in just modern medicine, right? And even though things weren't quite aligning, I stayed, quite frankly, because I was comfortable. It was golden handcuffs. So I was dealing with this inner battle, and the way I was dealing with it was like trying to shush myself, And then COVID hit. So it's interesting, because I talk about this in my workshops in terms of transforming conflict in business. But it's like you have this inner battle, and then now it shows up in the external. Right. And it's really like, where do you go from here? So I had a choice to make. And for me, it made sense to just walk away, because every part of my soul was basically had been saying for a while, like, this isn't aligned. And now, like, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And so I walked away 2 years ago, April 2022, and didn't quite know where I was headed. I had a mentor at the time who encouraged me to take a business intuition course. And that's really what unlocked things for me, because that's when I started to tune into one of my callings, which is seeing the business as its separate energy. But what I do is different than what I was taught in the course. As with all of us, whenever we do take classes and we learn, we always make it our own, because we have our own unique way of shining and showing up. So what I do is take it a step further and not just access the business, but also help with the aligning and the synchronizing of the business leader's genius with their business. So that was where it began. It's been a couple years of quite a journey. And it's interesting because you have this inner conflict that shows up with the external conflict. And then from there, you have a choice to make. And for me, I chose the route of trusting that this is a moment of deep transformation, and it changed my entire life. And I mean, in ways I couldn't even imagine. And it's very expansive, and it's not an easy road. Transformation in general is not an easy road. And that's why, to me, the word transformation is really important, because it really is the essence of what I do and who I am.
So describe to me what the difference is between kind of transformation and change management, which some people might be a little more familiar with in the corporate world, or the idea of like the conflict management clearly, but maybe how that fits into the business energy. I'm assuming it also fits into kind of a cultural thing. But talk to me about kind of the words that we're used to and how this is different from that too.
Well, I love that question in so many ways, because in reality, they're all interconnected, right? I think transformation, to me, really highlights going in the depths. I mean, if you think of it, you're like, when you think about transformation, we think of the caterpillar that turns into the butterfly, right? So, and that is one of the things I do, especially in the workshop. There's a structured way to go through the inner conflict that we deal with, to make it more tangible and conscious, if you will. But we're often going through these experiences, and we're not always conscious of the quote unquote steps. So the way I see change management is there are steps, but I also think that it can be more surface level. Okay. So, in the sense, especially like in the terms of business context, because I know I've gone through many trainings, especially when I was in corporate, on change management.
We're moving the
Um,
walls around, or we're moving the computer system.
Yes,
Like,
and which is, quite frankly, oftentimes very superficial,
yeah.
So you're not really getting to the heart of it. And this is what led me to this transforming conflict in business. People shy away from any form of conflict because it is painful. I mean, it's not fun, it's dirty, okay? And so the way I see it, and my approach is, we have to get dirty in order to really fully transform and honor the place we're meant to be. It is about being willing to look into the depths. So I see a lot of these initiatives, especially the corporate initiatives, very surface level. So it's not that they're not important, but they want everything, the outcome to them, the ideal outcome is that everybody's fine, everybody's peaceful. And that's just not the reality of how transformation works, or change, which is a part of the transformational process. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. It does. It's awesome. So when you're dealing with people, is it just kind of like, oh, the head of HR, she's kind of a, capital B, and we're not really getting along with her. And like, is it that kind of conflict resolution, or is it the kind that trickles down from the owner going, "Ah, I'm so sick of this job," and then everybody kind of feeling that going with the waves, or is it something completely different?
Yeah, well, in my one-on-one sessions, it's definitely more of this ethereal and practical exchange, if you will, with the business. In the workshops, Both scenarios that you talked about are exactly what we dive into. The way I see it, the external conflict, and this is what I was trying to highlight in my journey, really is a reflection of our inner conflict. So, how many times have people shown up and you get ticked off of something that may seem very minor because you yourself are just having a bad day, right? So really at the crux of what I teach in these workshops and what we really dive into is how to manage, and not manage isn't really the right word, but to honor our own inner journey, which usually gets highlighted through conflict, right? Triggers is a big thing, right? Because the way I see it is we shouldn't be knocked off of our path because somebody says or does something we don't like. That means that the external has more control than we do internally. That doesn't mean we agree with everything, but an example that I like to really highlight is we began to see it with in the U.S., which is where we both are, in the 2016 election. Either you were for Trump or against Trump, and people did not want to interact with the other side. And there was just no room for that. And that really spilled over into business. And then you had the COVID narrative, the same thing. Either you were on this side or you're on that side. And now we're seeing it, quite frankly, with the Israel Palestine situation, where either you're on this side or you're on that side, and people don't want to engage. And it's like the reason you're triggered by these events is because there's an inner reflection that's happening. And it has nothing to do with these events or these scenarios that pop up. It could be something completely different. It's a need that you have that's being reflected on. So, really, the crux of the work in the workshops is how do we recognize that and embrace that that's a journey we need to go on in order for us to, quite frankly, honor our own path. And the way I see it is disagreements are such a great opportunity to pull together to make an impact broader and greater. So what that means is we definitely should agree on the end result, right? But I'll be flexible in that. But how we get there can be different. And if you don't have room to hear another perspective, then quite frankly, you're missing out. So I hear a lot, and all of us do, like minded. And yes, to some degree that's helpful and important in some areas, but to completely surround ourselves constantly with people who think and act like us, really, yes, it just eliminates that opportunity for growth and challenge. When things are always great, you don't realize it because it's just your norm. We need these dark times to have that contrast. And that's when the growth happens, when we come out the other side and we say, hey, there were real gold nuggets in there. And they really highlighted who I am and who I'm meant to be. So to me, conflict starts with the self. So the more we can manage our inner voices and conflicting narratives, the more we have room for the external. Does that make sense?
And to me, you are preaching to the choir, girl. I'm so excited to hear this. I can't wait for this to get out. So, well, one question first. Do you work with particularly universities and post-secondaries? So I think there's a huge need right now for that, because I don't think they realize how kind of, I don't know if concentric is the right word, but they're hanging around that like-minded in kind of society, and they don't realize how strangling that is.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's funny. I did my first talk titled "Leading Through Conflict" was for a university.
Nice.
And initially, when I started working, I was focused primarily on entrepreneurs and corporate. But
Mhm.
since then, especially with this Transforming Conflict initiative, it's expanded to all types of organizations. Nonprofits, corporate, and You're absolutely right, because again, it's like, and I get it, it's comfortable, but
Mhm.
growth doesn't happen in comfort. I mean, that's the
It's
thing.
not
It's like
going
it
to be.
doesn't happen in that space. I
Mhm.
mean, and then again, it's not for the faint of heart. You have
Mhm.
to be willing to. But the other thing is, Michelle, the more we can honor our own uniqueness and embrace that within, the more we can hold space that others are also different and honor that they have a different journey. So, what it comes down to is the willingness to have a conversation without the need to get you to agree with me. It's being able to hold space for different narratives, for different perspectives, and respecting that I'm not here to make you like me. It's that is such something that's missing here. And because we are looking to, quite frankly, governments and other organizations who really want us divided. I mean, because they're focusing on their special interests. And so this is why I've really stepped into this, focusing specifically on the business arena, because to me, business leaders have a huge opportunity to really be the example to change this narrative. It is not going to come from the governments. We see, quite frankly, our leaders in the world are really disappointing to humanity. And business really has such a huge platform, and we can really transform this with, quite frankly, bypassing that, and
Absolutely.
eventually that change will bubble into that. But why wait? Let's start with business, and
Right.
and quite frankly, being able to monetize the impact. Right, there's another, people shy away from it, like, oh, I shouldn't be getting paid. They're like afraid to get paid and afraid to monetize their gifts. But this all ties into the same thing. When we know ourselves, we know how we're meant to serve. And
Mhm.
monetizing that is the way to do it, because what that does is it expands the reach, right? And so there's no reason to shy away from it. The other part of that is showing up in integrity. So not showing up in a hustle mindset, right? Like, and I'll give an example. There's a lot of networking opportunities out there. If you show up with the mindset, oh, I need clients, that's going to backfire. That it really is, because you're showing up from this place of lack. So
Mhm.
there's so much, and I think I've gone on a couple tangents here, Michelle. So I apologize. I'm going to stop.
Oh, I love it. This is what it's all about. And this is where the great conversations come from, because I want to go down those rabbit holes and I want to touch on the little hutches that we meet along the way, so that people can come back and go, hey, that thing that you touched on and then left right away, can we talk about that? That's my idea. And peeps, if you're listening to this and you have comments, go ahead and write in comments kind of what rabbit holes were of interest to you, because you touched on with this conflict. To me, it's not just about, hey, our employees aren't getting along with the head of HR and, it's a personality type thing. It's if you really understand, get to the deeper levels of people that are going, hey, there's this whole climate change thing we need to take interest in, and there's the whole renewable resources. But if you're an engineering company and you're building bridges, you want to be
Yes.
able to look at, okay, let's look at steel, let's look at wood, let's look at these plastics, these resins, these polymers. There's like, what else is out there, and how do we bring both sides of the table into the conversation to create something new, different, fantastic, and wonderful? And it becomes a differentiator, and those differentiators then become the money makers. Like, to me, it just makes sense that if you can get really polarizing people to come together and see the
Mhm.
similarities, that's where the magic is. That's fun. I mean, yeah, you got to be a
Totally.
certain kind of person to be able to facilitate
You
that
know,
room, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I say is, I'm not saying that everybody has to go seek out conflict. Like, I'm not saying that. But at the slightest instance, like, people run away. And it's
They
like,
are.
no, this is what, it's not about, okay, or sitting across the table from somebody that wants to kill you. That's not what I'm saying. Like,
Probably
it's
not
a
a good
simple,
idea, especially if they have
yeah,
a gun.
exactly.
Tables aren't
No
going to stop.
physical harm. No physical harm, right?
Right?
But and the emotional harm and things like that. Now I'm going on a tangent. That also is going to be contingent upon how true you are to yourself, how anchored into yourself. An example that I like to share is, people out in the world, and I know, pronouns are a big thing for a lot of people. They feel it's an important thing for their identity. And I'm not here to judge, but if somebody misgenders you, then people are like all up in arms. It's like, well, to me, that signifies that there's confusion inside. So how do you, and again, I'm not talking about people doing it maliciously. I'm talking, you're going about your day and somebody says something that, you don't, doesn't feel good to you in some way or another. It really is, do you know who you are? Then it shouldn't matter as much about what's happening outside. Like, don't let others derail you or other
Mhm.
situations. Like, you have a mission. We all have a mission, and it's very important. And the more true we are to ourselves, the more we can honor our mission, the more brightly our light shines. We're all diamonds, and we all deserve to be shining as bright as possible, but it starts from recognizing that in ourselves. And a lot of us will seek external validation, and we do that in business too. Like, so and so did this program, and look at, and now I'm doing it, and why am I not that successful? Because it's not aligned to you, or there's something inside of you that you haven't clicked into yet. There's a multitude of reasons, and this is what I work with people in my one-on-one sessions, like making sure that they're in alignment. But in terms of and this is why I feel like the two tracks that I have are very much interwoven, because all of it comes down to conflict, whether it's internal or external. And again, external is a reflection of the inner.
Well, and I think the topics of the conversation may be changing throughout history, but the construct of the conversation has always been there. I remember once when I was about, I don't know, maybe 19 or so, and there were two very well put together looking women having conversation in a coffee shop, and they were talking about somebody in politics and said it was a real shame that she had to wear low cut shirts and high cut skirts. And I went, or she just has really nice legs and knows how to wear them. I just walked away. I was like, you can be like that, or
Yes.
like I get where they were coming from. I totally get where they were coming from. You don't
Yes.
have to show in order to get ahead, but at the same time, if you got it flaunted, like it's right.
Well, and
So
again, everybody's got to do what feels good to them. Now, if she was doing it for a reason that's really demeaning to her, truly, and that is an area she can explore. But the point is, like, you know, curiosity, and this is curiosity and empathy are the keys to every relationship, every interaction. And
nice.
curiosity really means not having judgment. Because when we're judging others, we're judging ourselves. There's something inside of us that's being dinged and is a reflection. And that's what we're missing. So what we should do is, why is her looking like that upsetting me? What is the core? Is it because I don't feel free and I want to do that too? Like, what is it? So
Yeah.
it's really important to stay on our own path and remove that judgment whenever possible. But I hear you. It's
E-
so true.
and easier said than done, as anybody that
Absolutely.
runs a corporation with employees knows. Is like, oh, and then there was that. And then those are the ones that we're going to be talking to Juma about. Uh, I'm going to ask you about a Cinderella story of one of your clients, but before we do that, we're going to take a quick break.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.
So I am super excited. Give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Yeah, so I'll talk about a one-on-one client that I had. She came to me after being in entrepreneurship for about 5 years and really struggling, not able to monetize her business, and quite frankly, wanted to throw in the towel. And she had two streams of business. One specifically focused on motherhood, and another one focused on businesses, like setting up your business and starting, like entrepreneurship. And she, like a lot of people, gives a lot of things away for free, right? And not quite knowing how to rein that in and to monetize that. So she first came to me, we addressed the business side of her business. And we talked about how she can really monetize her community in that area because she was giving away so much for free. She had a reasonable community, and community was a big one, is a big theme that's been coming up more. I'd say the last, I don't know, 20 people that have come to me have been, it's about community. How do I not only build a community, but have it be able to support me? Right. Because that's one of the things that, when we have our own businesses, it is there to support us. Like it wants to support us. And that's one of the things we work through in our sessions together. So it was beautiful. She set it up literally the next day, she began to set it up. And then she came to me a couple months later about the motherhood side of her business. And it was the same thing, giving away a lot of things for free. And so she had two community streams now. And then a few months later, she combined them into one. And now she has these tiers, and it's supporting her. It's supporting her. Like she's moving away from one-on-one. So it really is tuning into what your business wants to do and how it wants to show up, and then aligning with that. Because when we look at our businesses as a partner rather than, oh, it's all on us, then you're swimming against the tide. So how do we align and synchronize the energy so that all you really have to do is show up and really honor that?
Nice. I love it. I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Yeah, you can come to jumanainc.com, and check out there. You can buy individual sessions, or there's a package of sessions as well. And if you're a larger organization, the recommendation is just to reach out to me via email, and we can talk about specifically what your needs are. Because I understand, like with the entrepreneur, it's easier, right? Like it's usually a one-off and it's much easier. But because I'm working with larger organizations, it's really important that we cater and understand what the specific needs are, and then we can go from there.
Beautiful. We will, of course, have all of Jumana's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click on the links, open up a new browser because we're not done yet. So I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you were especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, to be honest, first started my entrepreneurship journey well over 20 years ago. Internet was a baby then, and I'm definitely dating myself, but that's okay. And then even in corporate, I was in sales. So it was very much an entrepreneurial position under corporate. So I've always known that, I've known enough to connect with myself and honor that in me, even though there was some push and pull at times for sure. And I definitely overstayed a bit in corporate, but everything happens in the right time, right?
Nice. I love it. You've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
I just really appreciate this opportunity, Michelle. This has been a great conversation, and thank you so much.
Nice. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is. Nice. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.